The UN, with an overwhelming majority, just passed a new resolution against Israel, saying that Israel has no right to self-defense in Gaza, Jerusalem, Judea, or Samaria. They called on the member states not to sell military equipment to Israel. And more than that, they demanded the permanent removal of 800,000 Jews from their homes. And to make it a little bit more ludicrous, the resolution stated that this should all be completed within just 12 months. To put it plainly, Iran has just successfully enlisted 124 nations as partners and proxies in their war against Israel. Hang tight, guys, and we'll unpack the whole story right here. I'm Joshua, and this is the Israel Guys. Welcome back to the Israel Guys, where we believe in a world of anti-Israel propaganda and Jew hatred. You should have a direct connection to the land and people of Israel. Guys, diving straight into the topic, we have 124 nations voting in favor of a resolution in the UN that was drafted by the Palestinian Authority, which is a terrorist organization that operates here in the heartland of Israel that has unbelievable, horrible things on its hand, including the death of a lot of Jews, which is insane that the UN has fallen to this day at this point in history, not so many years after their creation, when they were intended to be a savior of the world in a way of keeping from wars and genocides and ethnic cleansings. Now the UN has literally fallen so far. We'll explain that now. Only 14 voted against this resolution that was, again, written by the Palestinian Authority, drafted by the Palestinian Authority, and 43 abstained. So those that abstained, whatever. That's these are the people that don't really matter anyway. That's why they're abstaining. Okay, so the resolution drafted says that Israel no longer has the right to self-defense. What's baffling is that there is 124 nations that actually believe that. Like, these nations voted in this massive vote that Israel should not have the right to defend itself. Now, that should be a given. Every person on the planet should have the right to defend themselves, but no. This is a historic moment that, crazy as it is just repeating what we've been through in all of Jewish history. Let's outline the whole thing. So they're saying Israel doesn't have the right to self-defense. The IDF doesn't have a right in Gaza and Judea and Samaria and Jerusalem, that the 800,000 Jews that live there should be pulled out of there right away. So you're not allowed to defend yourself, and the Jews that are living in those areas must be pulled out right away. 800,000 Jewish people must be pulled out. All 124 countries are stating the same thing. They all agree. Jews shouldn't be able to defend themselves, and they need to be exiled. That's the two things that they agree on. Now, the third thing, after they do those two moves, Israel must create, in the wake of those two moves, the de-arming and the removal of all the Jews in the ancient homeland of Israel called Judea. That's why you got to rename it, because it doesn't make sense to pull Jews out of Judea. You have to pull Jews out of the West Bank. And so that's what they've done, and they've made sense of that somehow in their mind. So in the wake of that, they need to create another Arab state called Palestine. All right. So let's just, their problems here is that they believe in their mind that Jews are the problem, not Iran and its proxies. So for the free world, the democratic world, this would seem problematic, that you'd think that the only democracy in the Middle East, which is Israel, would be your friend and ally and someone that you should partner with. But these 124 nations have really a sore problem. They really believe that the Jews are the problem, like most of the planet seems to be thinking these days, rooted, I would tell you, in anti-Semitism and Jew hatred, and that Iran and its proxies that have sworn the destruction of a small ethnic minority in the region called Israel, and all these nations somehow are siding with Iran and its proxies in a war of annihilation against Israel. Okay, so that doesn't make a lot of sense to me, seeing that the UN was founded to stop wars genocides, annihilations of ethnic minorities. So it seems like this is exactly the opposite of what the UN was founded for. So it seems to be happening is that the UN has now, after over 70 something years of its existence, has now decided that if you can't beat them, you just join them. Literally, that's what it seems like is going on. They have now, what I would say, clear definition of the fact that they're just now another proxy of Iran, and now they're more than just a proxy of Iran. It seems like they're they're handling the recruitment, trying to sign up nations under that Iranian banner of the destruction of Israel. And I'll define this because maybe you don't believe me when I say that. It sounds a little radical, sounds a little crazy that the UN could be now used as a tool in the hand of Iran to get signups, people to draft under the Iranian banner of the annihilation of Israel. But the UN hates Israel that much. And here, I'll just outline it for you. If you don't believe me, stay tuned here. There's one Jewish state, and that one Jewish state has 7.2 million population, all right? Now, let's focus in a little here and on the goal of the United Nations and 57 make sense of how they're actually a tool in the hand of Iran. They have come up with a plan that the 57 Muslim states, 22 Arab states, are poor and need help from the one and only Jewish state in order to do one thing. The whole of the United Nations there, at least 124 members, have decided that those poor, pitiful Muslim states, Arab states, they need help. And what they need is for Israel to basically cut itself in half, divide its land, to pull out Jews from the land, and take weapons away from Jews, and on top of that, create another state for the Arab Muslims, because they only have 57 Muslim states and 22 Arab states, so they need another one. The whole world is coming under the same idea. They need another state. It's vital. And if they just have one more state, then there will be peace. Obvious. Okay, now let's look at that. Now, they're asking the 7.2 million Jews to do something for them, and them is 2 billion. The Muslim world, is 2 billion. Now, we could stop at the 2 billion, but there's actually more that have joined onto the cog, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But these 124 nations have decided that one state that they just have to have in order to really be satisfied, again, after the 57 states that they already have, or the 57 Muslim states that they already have, they just need the 58th. And if they have the 58th, for goodness sakes, they can live peaceably with the whole world. Do you believe that for 2 seconds? No, of course not. But the UN has been convinced that actually will bring global peace and therefore achieve the UN's goal of establishing peace in all of the world. Guys, how much sense do you have to have? Obviously, none of them have any, or they're absolutely downright rotten. And if they're downright rotten, which I believe they are, they know what they're doing. And they're trying to cause another genocide against, okay, is it an ethnic minority? Is 7.2 million people and a landmass surrounding them of Arabs, of 2 billion Arabs? That's called a minority, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, we're going to get to the full plan of what they're actually outlining and how that looks. But first, every week our team at the Israel Guys have the privilege of traveling throughout this gorgeous country, the biblical places like Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, and the Galilee. To see and touch this land is very special, something we don't take for granted. Our friends behind the movie, I Am Israel, know that so many of you are dreaming of touching the land of the Bible, and they've created a way for you to do that every day. Designed especially for women of faith, jewelry by I Am Israel will give you a stylish and elegant way to wear a piece of the promised land wherever you go. Faith Like a Mustard Seed necklace and earrings contain soil from the mountains of Jerusalem and a mustard seed from the fields of Bethlehem. Flowers of the field, necklace contain a unique selection of flowers that are grown and cut right here in the land of Israel. Every piece is skillfully handcrafted and inspired by the words of the Bible. So if you're a woman who values both style and the land where so many of the Bible characters walk, or a guy who doesn't know much about jewelry but knows that the women in your life would absolutely love it, visit the jewelry selection at IamIsraelFilm.com or simply click the link in the description below. Okay, so we permanently expel Jews from the lands of Judea and Samaria, Gaza, Jerusalem. These are the, matter of fact, these are the only biblical, like if you read your Bible, these are the lands where Jews are from. These are the lands where big spiritual things happened to them. So first and foremost, we have to sever the connection with Jews and the Bible, and then we can have a big win. Because then if we disconnect the Jews from the Bible, then we can expel them from their land because there's no reason for them to be there anymore. There's no historical connection. So let's sever that spiritual connection, and then we will permanently uproot and expel all the Jews from their biblical heartland, from these lands that have historically connected them. All right, that's step one. Step two is we're taking away those weapons as we described before. And then once they have no weapons, and in this resolution, we're calling that all the nations of the world stop selling weapons to Israel. We need them. Not only that they shouldn't have weapons to defend themselves because they don't have a right to defend themselves as the 124 nations have just decided, but they also, no one should allow them or sell them weapons just in case someone would, then, well, they're a part of the evil that somehow Israel is causing. The evil of what? The evil of the existence of the state of Israel and the Jewish people. Okay, so this brings us their three-step plan. The first step being exile, the second step being stripping them of all source of the ability to protect and defend themselves. And then third, and guys, don't forget, I'm talking about the UN is actually promoting this three-step plan on the Jewish nation now as I speak. You don't have to be too sophisticated to know what number 3 would be after steps 1 and 2. Do I even have to explain it? Again, 7.2 million Israelis surrounded by over 2 billion Muslims, and now that the UN has become has been drafted by the Iranians as another proxy fighting group, if we really want to talk straight, that's what's actually going on. 124 UN member nations now joining the Iranian cause and its proxy groups to demonize and delegitimize and destroy Israel. All right, they're not saying that Iran is saying that. The UN is not yet saying that. They're trying to do the three-step plan. Iran is just doing the one thing. Just let's get rid of all of them right away. No, the UN is being gentle about it. They're being political about it. We need 3 steps. We need to do what I've already talked about. And then third, we will start cutting away their land, and then we'll finally get there, right? If we add the UN and its members to this 2 billion Muslims that already exist, that are already the enemies of Israel, the sworn enemies of Israel, for the most part, at least all the ones that are voting, they're all voting for this as well. Then we also find if we add the member nations that voted in, we'll have well over 4 billion. It's no longer 2 billion. Now it's 4 billion people around the world that have joined the Iranian ideology and proposal, solution for peace, the annihilation of the state of Israel, and a step-by-step plan. Again, that's over 4 billion people that have signed on to the ideology against who? The 7.2 million living here, Jews living right here in the land of Israel. So how are they achieving this? They've shrunk the land through supposedly peace negotiations. That's what's keeping to happen. Why is the world consumed with peace negotiations? The UN is constantly talking about peace because they're trying to shrink Israel. They're trying to shrink that 7.2 million Israelis landmass so that they can make that job in the end, that third phase, a little bit easier. Again, with no weapons, that would be, fairly easy and you would think, well, I mean, why is the 4 billion people of the world trying to attack, and it's only 7.2 million people that they're at war with. This is insanity Let me boil it down very clearly for you. The third phase of their attempt and this resolution that's been brought forth and voted in here is nothing more. I'll be very blunt with you. It's nothing more than the same exact results and solutions that a man in history named Hitler was shooting for just 80 years ago. This is exactly what's happening. The final solution was their plan then. Today, it's called the two-state solution. Ladies and gentlemen, you cannot misunderstand this situation now. This is exactly what's happening. This is the situation as it lies. The final solution has now been drafted into a more politically and sociably acceptable two-state solution. But let me be clear. The goal has not changed. The goal has not changed. It's the very same goal that has existed even far before Hitler. It's existed for the existence since Abraham and the Jewish people. They've had enemies that wanted to destroy them. Ever since God's choosing of the Jewish people, they've had enemies. And here's the good news. This has all sounded very tough, very hard to hear, because it looks like we're at another time in history when the Jewish people are yet at a war of survival, when they have 4 billion people around the world that are signing on to their destruction and would love to see them completely annihilated. But this is not the first time this has happened. Far from it. Look back at history. This is a continuation of age-old, historic accounts that have happened time and time again. We're just now living through another one. Here's the good news. All those nations that attacked Israel throughout history, where are they? And these 124 nations that just signed this resolution against Israel, they're going to be added to that list. There's just absolutely no doubt about it. And so when you ask me, am I afraid to be here? I've aligned myself with 7.2 million against 4 billion. That sounds like a really idiotic decision. And maybe you, as you're sitting here watching too, you're maybe feeling like, did you make the right decision? Is this the right thing? I'll tell you this. I have a lot more confidence and belief and faith, actually, in that 7.2 million than I do the entire 8 billion of the planet. I really do, because that 7.2 million have a God and that has been faithful to them for history long. Never failed. Look, Israel's back. This is a fulfillment of so much. Biblical prophecy is now back. It's within, we're seeing it alive right now. God's not going to allow anything to happen to them. And we'll continue to see, if we would say it correctly, who's behind all this incredible things that are happening these days. Who's behind radios blowing up and taking out entire forces? Well, there's a big God in heaven that is allowing success of the Jewish nation, and that success will not stop. And you better be worried. If you're one of those nations that just signed on against Israel, against the Jewish people, against the state of Israel, against the lives of these 7.2 million Jews, you better watch out. And it's not because of the Jewish people. You better watch out, because they have a God who's watching them and doesn't take his eyes off of them every day. Now, that all sounds pretty high in the sky, pretty religious, but here at the Israel Guys, that's exactly what we're here for. We're here to tell you the truth of what's actually going on as we see it. We're on the ground here, and this is what's going on right now. We cannot stand idly by. We said never again, 70, almost 80 years ago, and now is that time. If there's one word I would speak to you that are already saying, I stand with Israel, I want to support Israel, get engaged. It's no longer a time to sit back and relax. It's time to support, stand up, be a part of strengthening and encouraging the Jewish nation now in this time like in no other time before. You must engage. It's not a time to sit back and watch Iran and its proxies, the UN and its proxies, attacking and delegitimizing the state of Israel. It can no longer be just watched. The way to get involved is to come to Israel, support Israel, get a part of operations that are extending a hand and reaching out and volunteering. That's how to engage. Ladies and gentlemen, I've rattled on for long enough, but I hope you understand the severity of the situation and that you do get engaged and do something about it. Not on our watch, right? We said never again, and we mean it. Ladies and gentlemen, as always, stop listening to the lies and the propaganda and connect to the truth of what's happening here in Israel.